Hi everybody. Thanks for having me along to your Family Connect session this evening. I'm really grateful to Enable Scotland for inviting Family Fund to come along. What I'd like to do this evening is share a little bit about what Family Fund does, the grant support that we have available for families. As I'll mention, we're a UK-wide organisation, but I'll be talking about the support that we have available to families in Scotland. And quite an exciting day for us. We've actually launched our new website today. So instead of using slides to illustrate what I'm talking about, I'm actually going to share our new website and show you a little bit how to navigate that. It's quite new to me as well, very new to me as well. So bear with me while we do that, but hopefully it will mean that the things that I talk about, you're on this call this evening, so I'm thinking that at least one member of your family is quite confident with the internet, and hopefully if I go through some of the key elements of where you'll find information on our website, after tonight's talk you'll be able to then go away and in your own time go back in and have a look at the things that were of particular interest to you. So I'm just going to attempt to share my screen now and go into the new website, and I'll just talk about Family Fund as we do that. So, okay, so hopefully you can now all see the Family Fund website on your screen. I can see Lauren nodding, so thank you. So just to explain a little bit about who we are, we're a UK-wide charity. We're UK's largest grant-making charity providing support for families raising a disabled or seriously ill child or young person on a low income. We believe that families raising disabled or seriously ill children and young people should have the same choices, quality of life, opportunities and aspirations as other families, and we try to make that happen every day. And the key ways in which we do that are through giving grants to families who are on a low income for items that they may not otherwise be able to afford. Examples include family breaks, digital equipment like laptops and tablet computers, white goods like washing machines, fridge freezers, dishwashers, bedding, furniture, play equipment, clothing. There's a long list of things that we could potentially support your family with. We know though that families tend to have wider need and a need for information. We know that it can be difficult to know where to go for trusted information. The fact that you're all connected with Enable Scotland provides me with reassurance that you will have a good trusted organisation that you can go to, but we're aware that that's not the case for every family. So as well as providing grants, we look to ensure that families can go on our website, for example, or come along to one of our information and support days and find out about wider information and support and advice. So we offer services to help parents and carers achieve the outcomes they want for their child and family. And this includes where to go for support with money, social security benefits, help with budget planning, information on mental health and wellbeing, and things like carer support, and practical workshops to help people get online and use digital tools. Because we know that's a real challenge for a lot of people, but we know also there's a big reliance for services on people using digital to connect with their services and access support. We also look to provide ways for families to share their experiences so that they can influence lasting change on issues that matter to them, similar to the way in which Enable Scotland works. We want to provide grants to make a difference to people's lives every day, but we also want to see positive change for families of disabled children and young people. So I'm Selina Begley. I'm the Partner Engagement Manager for Family Fund here in Scotland. My role includes lots of different things, and really they're all about these different things that you can see here under our mission and vision. So I do things like talk to families online, talk to practitioners, go to different places across Scotland. Online's great as well for sessions like this, where we can ensure that families know about our support. It's really important to us that families know about us and know how to access our grants. So I'll show you on our website this evening the different ways that you can do that. As I say, the other thing that we do is we provide those opportunities for families to share their experience. So we undertake a quarterly family poll, and we publish the key findings of that on our website. We engage with families doing different research projects, and we share the findings with the different governments across the UK. So key thing you'll want to know about probably is which grant programmes are available. So you'll see here on our website, which is www.familyfund.org.uk, and I'll make sure that's in the chat later, and send some information for Lauren to send out, which grant programmes are available. So if you go on the website and you click on that, we have a new way of doing this, where you put in the age of your child or young person, and you'll see that that goes up to 24. So we provide support for families of children who are 1 and actually under, and right up until young people are 24. So a lot of people know about Family Fund and think that we only provide support for young people up to the age of 16. Actually, our main grant programme, our core programme, provides support for children and young people up to the age of 17, including 17. And we now also have a grant programme called Your Opportunity that provides support to families on a low income with a young person still living at home who's aged 18 to 24. We also have Take a Break, and all of these grant programmes are here on our website. So say, for example, you're caring for a young person aged, let's say 17 in Scotland. Click on filter, and hopefully you'll see, so if you're caring for a young person aged 17, you'll see this Scotland core programme and Take a Break Scotland. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about each of these, and then we'll come back in and we'll do a search for an older young, somebody, if you're a parent carer of an older young person aged over 17. So our core programme is known as Family Fund, so that's quite easy to remember since that's the name of our organisation. When I came to work for Family Fund, which was 12.5 years ago, if I was having a session like this, A, it would have been face-to-face, and B, I mainly would have been talking about the core programme. But now we have a range of other grant programmes that we deliver, and so that's why we tend to refer to it as the core programme. So if you are a family who are on a low income, living in Scotland, I'll actually just read it from the website here. So to apply for a grant from our main grant programme, if you're living in Scotland, you can apply for a grant every 12 months, so it's not a one-off grant. You can apply if you're the main carer for a disabled or seriously ill child or young person aged 17 or younger. You've been resident in Scotland for at least 6 months, and you have a low income from working or from benefits. So we provide support to families who may be entirely dependent on income from social security benefits, as well as families who are working. So you can find out more about eligibility for a grant here. So to find out if you're eligible, and bear with me because I'm just seeing this almost for the first time myself, you need to be on a low income to receive support from the main grant programme. The way in which we usually establish that is through asking families to send proof of entitlement to one means tested benefit with their application. So we don't ask for lots of information about your income and what's coming in and what's going out. We don't need to know all of that. However, you may not be in receipt of any of these benefits, and that doesn't mean that we wouldn't be able to provide support, but we would just need you to provide some extra information about your household income, or speak to someone who can confirm your family income and situation. Fortunately, we're not all usually able to award a grant if you have a significant level of household income, savings or capital. I hope that makes sense. We can provide support to families who don't have any recourse to public funds, but again, as it says here, we may need to speak to somebody to get a fuller picture of your family circumstances. I'll come to the exciting bit about what we can actually help with in a minute, so I realise I've jumped into the kind of dry bit about who can apply, but it is quite important. So you need to be living in Scotland, live in Scotland for 6 months, be on a low income, and you need to be caring for a young person who is disabled or has serious illness. Family Fund is not a charity that only provides support to children and young people with this one specific type of additional support need or condition. We provide support to children and young people with a wide range of different additional support needs. So if your child needs a high level of support in at least 3 areas of their daily life, and they have a long-term additional support need or condition, or they don't need to have a diagnosis, but they do need a high level of support in 3 different areas, we may be able to provide a grant. So we've identified 7 different areas within which a young person might need support. So if you're caring for a young person and you look at these and you think, definitely my young person needs a high level of support in at least 3 of these areas, then I would encourage you to make an application. So this might include personal care, access to social activities, education, communication. Your young person might need a high level of supervision and vigilance to stay safe. They may require medical or therapeutic treatment, condition management, and they might need adaptations or adjustments within the physical environment or access to specialist resources. So the key thing, because we don't just provide support to children and young people with one type of additional support needs, key things that is, if you're applying, and the same goes for our other grant programmes, that you tell us as much as possible about your young person's additional support needs. If you think it's relevant, put it down. And you know, we've supported thousands and thousands of families across the UK for many years. So you know, we do understand about the different support that children and young people need. We're not able to provide grants for children and young people who are in local authority care. So, for example, if a child is in foster care, we wouldn't be able to provide a grant. We want families to be able to get the support through their entitlements. So if a young person's been looked after by the local authority, including within foster care, then we would hope that we would want them to be receiving support through the local authority. I hope that makes sense. Not been quite fluid as normal because I'm talking to the website rather than my slides. So please do jump in, Lauren. Let me know if there's any questions in the chat. I'm happy to answer them as I go along. So what sort of grants can you apply for? So this is a kind of really interesting bit. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's lots of different things that you could apply for support with. We may not be able to provide support for all of the things that you need. And so it's important when you apply that you tell us what you need support with, who it's for and what the benefits might be, just in your own words, but also put it in priority order if you're applying for more than one thing. If you do need support on more than one thing, please put them down. So don't feel that you have to just stick with one thing if you there's a couple of things you need support with. But we will try and help if we're able to, but we do want to try and help with the priority. And as I said earlier, you can apply again a year later. And we do encourage families to come back to us if they've got something that we can currently help with and they're still eligible to apply. So some of the things we can help with include family breaks, computers and tablet computers, clothing, games consoles, sensory toys and equipment, kitchen appliances, days out, furniture and household goods, garden improvements, specialist trikes and bikes, outdoor play equipment, games, books and music. And for young people, we can sometimes help with a driving ambitions grant. So I'll just click on that because it's a little bit unusual. This doesn't help with the cost of ongoing driving lessons, but they can help a young person to get started if they may be able to learn to drive and want to do that. So it can help with the cost of the provisional licence, theory test, learning materials such as a highway code or theory test booklet, first taster lesson, and funding towards compulsory basic training for moped riders. Quite interesting. I know you've had Lee House along before from the Independent Living Fund Transitions Fund, so you'll know that this is driving lessons is something that they can also help young people with if they're eligible. But again, this might be something we could support with, and then you know, you could apply for something else from them, or it may be that we could support with a household good for the family or a family break for the family. But I would encourage you to, there's no barrier to you applying to both schemes for support for your young person and for your family. So I'm just going to go back to to the different grants again. Just, are there any specific questions about that? Just to explain, if you click on any of these, it will show the different ways in which we can provide each grant. Now, we don't provide many monetary grants, so we don't provide many cash grants through the main grant programme. Most of our grants are provided through a contract with a company, and that means that we get funding back from those companies and we're then able to help more families. It also means that it's a really efficient way of providing support, and we try and build in as much choice as we're able to. So, for example, with family breaks, you can apply for a family break through Inspire, which is the company we use, and it gives you, here it explains a little bit about it, what sorts of things you can use it for, and what the conditions of the grant are. So how long you have to book your break, for example. And you can click on any of these and get a bit more information. So if you're not sure what it is you want to apply for, I'd encourage you to have a look on the website and have a think about, well, actually what would be most useful to us and our family right now, what would help us the most. So again, for example, sensory toys explains here. We can offer grants for sensory toys and equipment, which can create a calming or motivational environment for your child to develop. And the company we used as our partner with sensory toys and equipment is Learning Space. They're an award-winning toy and resource supplier. So Learning Space specialises in inspiring educational resources and sensory equipment that meets the needs and interests of all children. Their team of specialist advisors will help you decide on the perfect toy or equipment choice for your child or young person. So as you can see, there's a lot of information on the website that can help guide you in making a decision about what you want to apply for this year. We've also got family stories that illustrate the benefits of a particular grant or how it might be used for. And I love seeing our family stories. We have them, some sent through to us in the team. There's certain things that we wouldn't be able to help with, so let's have a wee look here and see if it's a bit of information about that. Frequently asked questions about grants. So here's some frequently asked questions about grants. So I'm not sure this has quite got what I was looking for, but there's lots of different useful things there about once you've applied. It asks here, what's our family fund number? So if you've applied to Family Fund before, it might be a couple of years ago, say, and you might think, oh, I can't remember what the number they gave me was when I applied. I can't remember my Family Fund number. Doesn't mean you can't apply again. You certainly can. If you don't have your Family Fund number, you can just fill in your details. But you can also access your Family Fund number on the website by putting in some details, and then we would be able to find your Family Fund number for you. So we've built in lots of things like this to the new website to make it easier for families to find the information that they need without necessarily having to phone us, because we do know that our phone line can be busy. We've got really excellent staff in our first contact team that will respond to your inquiries, whether they come through email, social media, or through by phoning. But we do want to ensure that families who need to phone us have the best possible access to that. So we've tried to build in lots of information on the website. So I'm jumping about a little bit, and I'm just wondering what might be most useful to tell you about now. So there's lots of different things you can apply for. One of the questions you might have is how to apply. So if you're on the website and you've clicked on grants, apply for a grant. Okay. So there's some information here about applying and a bit of things that you might want to think about before you apply. So for example, are you eligible? When can you apply next if you've applied before? Maybe try and get together some supporting information that you'll need to send with your application before you sit down to complete an application. So that might be your most recent benefit entitlement letter or email that shows your details. It might be, for example, if you're a kinship carer, it might be that you might have some paperwork that can show that you're eligible to apply for the young person you're caring for. Or, for example, it might be that you have some support and evidence that might be helpful in explaining what your child's additional support needs are and the high level of support that they need. And that can be a range of different things. So it might be a wellbeing plan from school. It might be that there's a key worker, a support worker that knows your young person well, that could provide some information to come with your application. Or it might be that you have a report from a consultant or a speech and language therapist or something like that. And you have the option to include that information with your application to help us make a decision about eligibility. So if you're applying online, you need to register an account on our new family portal. And it's really straightforward. The other thing I would say is a number of small short videos on our website, which you can watch, and it's members of our team explaining about registering to apply the different grant schemes. And I think they're really good because you can watch them again and again, and you know, in your own time if you're unsure about anything. Okay, so, and I should say, you don't need to apply online. So I know you're online tonight in this meeting, but for some families, they do very much still prefer a paper application. So you can download an application pack and print it off yourself, or and post it to us, or you can request an application pack to be sent out to you. Okay, so you should receive that within 10 working days. Okay, so, and I see we've got a little note here encouraging people to think about whether or not they need one posted out, but if you need a paper application form, you most certainly can ask for one, and please do so. In terms of how long it can take to process an application, it can take a wee while. We supported over 150,000 families across the UK last year with grants and services. So that's a lot of grant applications within that to process. We do our very best to keep timescales down to a minimum. So that's why we ask you to think about what you need to send with your application, and send as much information or the necessary information with your application so that we can turn that around as quickly and as efficiently as possible and get a grant out to you if you're eligible. So yes, so you can apply online or you can apply with a paper application. This is a bit dry, I realise, so I'm just wondering, is there anything, I'm just wondering, there might be people on the call that might have more than one child or young person who's eligible. So you can apply for more than one young person within the one grant application. If you have two children that might be eligible for the main a grant through the core programme, when you apply, you can apply on behalf of more than one young person. You don't need to fill in two full applications. The first part of eligibility is about the family, so where you live, how long you've lived here, that sort of thing. The second part would be about the young person. It wouldn't necessarily increase the value of an award, but what it does mean is we can consider a grant specifically for that young person. So say you've got Jennifer and John. Say Jennifer needs would benefit from a clothing grant, but John would benefit from a new bed. Just saying. Sometimes I pick things like a games console and a bed, and then I think if siblings find out about those, there might be a disagreement. So it means that we can actually provide those. We could look to provide those particular items for the young people, because we can't provide a grant for a young person who's not eligible. What I would say though is lots of our grants do benefit the whole family. So if you've got a family break, that can benefit the whole family. If you have outdoor play equipment, that can benefit all the children in the family. If you have a day trips grant, that can benefit everybody, and we're always really pleased to hear about the wider benefits of our grants. So I hope that tells you a little bit. I may well have missed things out, but I hope it gives you an idea of the breadth of the sorts of things. We can't help with anything that statutory services should be helping you with. So if you're entitled to something through your local getting my terms mixed up, say it ran through the education department or through health and social care partnership, we wouldn't want to provide a grant for that item, because what we want is for you to be accessing the things you're entitled to and our discretionary grants. We can't help with anything you've already paid for. So if your washing machine's broken down and you've gone and paid for a new washing machine, we wouldn't be able to give you cash to cover the cost of that. because we use our contracts to provide grants. There are some grants that won't necessarily be immediately listed on our website individually because they're quite bespoke or specialist. So there are items that we can help with. You're making me a wee bit jealous there, Stephen, with your refreshment. You're making me thirsty. I'll just get my water here. Well, anyway, yes. So yeah. So if there's more than one young person in the family, I see Bill's got a question. Bill, do you want to ask
Go
me?
for it, Bill. Do you want to take yourself off mute?
It'll distract me from Stephen's refreshment.
Oh, Bill, you're on mute still. I don't know.
So a couple of questions, Helena, was the fact that is obviously I mentioned low income, right? But is there a monetary value against that? Because when you think about the present cost of living increases, people who are on relatively good incomes, when you take off all the net, what they've got to pay, you know, it's a net income, which may be quite low. But initially they may be on not too bad because they've got high energy costs, etc. Another question I was going to ask is, what about people, families in temporary accommodation? I know you mentioned obviously they've got a, you know, like some, they've got their name and address, but you also said they can give clothing grants, right? Or maybe even bedding grants. Would that apply to someone in temporary accommodation?
Yeah, so I'll come to your second question first, if that's okay.
Okay.
So we do quite often get, I don't know the numbers exactly, but we do quite often get applications from families who are in temporary accommodation for a range of different reasons, obviously. Sometimes it can limit the types of grants that we can provide them whilst they're still in temporary accommodation. But what we would look to do, depending on the circumstances, is potentially make an award for an item once they've moved to their more permanent accommodation. I'm thinking, for example, you know, it might be you've got a woman fleeing domestic abuse and maybe in temporary accommodation. Sorry, my computer's just come on. I'm just going to cancel that for now. So the still provide for example, certain things that we wouldn't be able to help with because of because they're in, you know, in their temporary accommodation. So circumstances like that are quite individual, but certainly we would still look to make an award, and if it was an item that we couldn't immediately award, we would look to make that award once they've moved. So for example, if a family know that they're going to be moving out and they know that they need help with say for example a new washing machine, we would ideally look to provide that once they've moved. But things like clothing for the young person and so on, we would, as far as I'm aware, we would be able to provide that grant whilst they're in temporary accommodation, because again, temporary can mean quite a long time, unfortunately, for some families. There's some grants, for example, like the garden works, that we couldn't provide to families in some types of housing. So that would, and again, I wouldn't go into great detail because I don't cover the, you know, grant delivery, but there is information on the website obviously for each of these things. But you know, so for example, we wouldn't undertake work to a garden that where the responsibility lies with a social landlord, for example, but there might be things that we can help with that are out with their responsibility. So we quite often help with fencing in certain circumstances, but first and foremost we would want to know, has the landlord met their level of responsibility in relation to that. And your first question was about low income. So you're absolutely right. In terms of low income, we are obviously aware that families can have, right at the moment in particular, significant outgoings. As we covered when we were looking at the website, we usually look at that in terms of whether or not a family is entitled to a means tested benefit, because we know then that they've already gone through a process to establish their income and they're receiving that particular benefit because of their income and their circumstances. However, there is that opportunity to apply if you're not in receipt of means tested benefits, but we would ask for more information. It is a tricky one because we're not able to help everybody. But what I would say is we do, in terms of our public affairs work, we do share, for example, all our family poll research and so on with Scottish Government, and we do, wherever possible, share with them the challenges that our families are facing in terms of things like meeting their bills from their income and making the case for increased income for families of disabled children and young people because of the additional costs that we know they face, and we've got evidence for that through our research. So there is a level of discretion. So if you feel that you would be eligible, please do apply. And as I say, we are also taking every opportunity that's appropriate opportunity to raise our concern about the costs that families are facing at the moment, which have become really unsustainable. The other thing that we try and do is try and make sure that families know where to go for support with things like energy costs, through things like Home Energy Scotland and so on, which again I know might not be a huge consolation, but we do recognise the issues that families are facing, and we do help when we can, but there are some restrictions on when we can support.
Certainly, when I have my experience of just working with the Family Fund, with referring families to you guys, has always been that you do treat each case as an individual case. It's not one box fits all type thing. So as I know that certain families I've referred, you've just maybe asked for a wee bit more information, but you've been able to help in some way. And if you haven't, we appreciate you can't help everyone as much as you'd like to, I'm sure. There has always been, but what about this, or try this, or so my experience of that is that they've really treated every case as an individual case rather than just a big blanket. If you don't fit in this box, then
and we do try and signpost other support and entitlement. So again, although even with people receiving all of their entitlements, we know that that's not, in a lot of cases, that's not covering the costs that they unavoidable costs that families have. So it's not about people going out and purchasing luxury items. It's just about people trying to live a good life and have their essential needs met. But so we do try and make sure that families know where to go for good support about accessing their entitlement to benefit where they are entitled, because a lot of families just aren't aware of what they're entitled to, and if they've had a change in circumstances, which many families have in the last couple of years, people are sometimes quite fearful about what to do. They don't know where to go, they don't know where to start, and they're time poor as well. It's a real struggle for people to make the time. But it seems like a good junction to talk about Take a Break, partly because there isn't any income criteria for that. So we know that many of the carers that apply to Take a Break will be on a low income, but I come across a lot of families where they wouldn't necessarily be eligible for a Family Fund grant because of their income, but they are struggling to access a short break for themselves as a carer. They're struggling to look after their own health and well-being. So that's where Take a Break can be of some support. So I'll talk about that next, because I think it's really a key one. Now, Take a Break isn't open to applications at this moment in time, but we will be reopening to applications in the next couple of months. So probably early May. That's when we usually aim to open. We don't have an absolute date yet, which is why I'm being a bit vague, but we will have an absolute date in the reasonably near future, I think. But early May is when we tend to open to applications. Take a Break is funded by Scottish Government's Short Breaks Fund. So some of you might have heard of another grant programme called Time to Live, which works our way and is funded by Scottish Government Short Breaks Fund as well. Take a Break is a short break grant scheme for the carers of disabled children and young people. It provides cash grant for people health condition. It aims to ensure that carers of disabled children and young people are able to have a life alongside their caring role as they can be. It provides all grants, unlike the main grant programme where we provide most of our grants through a contract. With Take a Break, they are small cash grants, a bit less than £300. And you can apply for a grant if you're caring. So the eligibility criteria is here on the website, so I'll just read it out. So it's for families living in Scotland. So if you've lived in Scotland continuously for 6 months or longer, be a UK resident, be caring for a disabled or seriously ill child or young person aged from birth up to 20 who lives at home with you, and similar to the core grant programme, we can't provide a grant for a young person who's looked after by the local authority through Take a Break, although it's the carer who's eligible. Bill, you've got a question, I'm happy to jump in.
Who looks after your child while you're having a break?
So I'll talk about the types of things that you can apply for. So and I'm hoping they've got examples. See, I'm getting used to this new website myself, but I know them off the top of my head anyway. So, but we'll go into the website from here. Some of this will need updated before we reopen, so bear with me. So, who can apply your stories? Okay. What can I apply for? So there should be a range of examples on here. So it's not a one size fits all, obviously. Lots of carers do take a break along with the young person and or other family members. Some people use it for something that's specifically for them. So it might be, but the other thing you can do is use it for something that's of mutual benefit. So we have had, you can apply for the cost of the young person doing something, whether it's a club or activity, or having somebody care for them while you get a break. So it's there to benefit you, but that can be, ideally, that can be achieved in a range of different ways. So lots of our families do take a break as a family. Some carers use it for equipment. So we've had families use it towards buying a kayak. We've had people buy camping equipment, bikes and a bike rack. We've had people use it for things like a playhouse or sheds. We've had, you could use it for a gym membership. You can use it for a season pass for somewhere. You can use it for travel costs. You can use it for the cost of visiting family. You can use it for day trips. You can use it for hobby costs, digital subscriptions, a digital device. It can be something that you're participating in, something that the young person's participating in, or both, either together or separately. So it's very much about what's a break to you. We know that £300 isn't a huge amount of money, and particularly at the moment, we're always trying to balance supporting a large number of carers and helping people achieve the things that they want to achieve in the way that they want to achieve it. So it is a balance, it's a tricky balance. What I would say is, if you're applying to take a break, and I hope that many of you do if you're eligible, put in as much information as you can about the break that you want to take and how you want to take it and what the cost might be. I don't mean that you need to count every ice cream that you're going to have, but if, for example, specific things about your situation mean that there's specific additional costs, please include them in your application so that can be taken into account. I say some of this needs updated a little bit. So these are all small cash grants. So the way that we work is we open to applications and we'll provide an opening date and a closing date so that everybody's aware of that. You can apply online to take a break. You can also still request a paper application form. What I would say is the most efficient way of doing it is online if you're confident doing that. If you're going to use a paper application form, try and request that early on, or download and print it off yourself if you've got the facility to do that, or if you've got somebody that supports you, ask them if they're able to do that for you to get your application in good time. We'll have more information about how it's going to work this year a little bit nearer the time once we get all our plans in place, and we'll be happy to share them with Lauren to share with people to make sure you know when we're open and everything, Lauren.
Yep.
You can apply to both Family Fund and Take a Break, or Your Opportunity and Take a Break if you're eligible. There's no barrier to you doing that. As I say, some of this is a little bit, it will need updated for this year. So let me just, are there any questions in the application form? It asks about the additional support needs of the young person you're caring for, but there are also a couple of questions about the impact of caring on the carer. The reason for that is because the purpose of the grant is a little bit different from the main grant programme. So you know, we know that you know, a carer circumstances can vary quite a lot, and the impact of caring can vary on, so it's not just about the additional support needs of the young person. So again, if you're comfortable doing so, you know, please do share that in your application to help us make a decision about a grant. And we do award all of the grants usually by early July, but as I say, we'll have the actual dates for this year and for any award dates published before we open. And I'll be happy to come back along again, Lauren, and do a specific session just focused on Take a Break, if that's helpful at the time.
Yeah, no, that would be great.
Make sure we get the word out.
Selena,
Yes.
could you say, oh, sorry, there. Oh, don't know if you can see me.
Yeah, you're there. Yeah.
Sorry, that's fine. I'll just put a wee bit of perspective on it. My son is with Crossreach, right?
Yes.
And he gets, we've been offered his respite care, you know, for a week, and it's between 5 and 7 days, various places, right? And the cost is ranging from £1,950 to £3,000.
Yeah.
And that's just for a week. And that's either Blackpool, right? Or Llandudno, right? And the most expensive one is Forteventura.
All right, okay.
But it just gives you an idea, you know, of obviously the cost, how the cost is shot up, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely, and we are aware of that, and we've, you know, we know from some of the feedback from last year about costs going up for families to go away. It's, you know, booking accommodation has gone up. Again, one of the things I would say is you know, we last year we actually had a significant increase in our funding from £700,000 to £1.5 million. But even so, we still had more applications than we were able to make an award for, while still providing a meaningful grant to carers. So we've made our funders aware of that. Obviously, we would ideally be able to provide an award that does cover the costs of each person's break, and also provide an award to each eligible carer. You know, that's the position we would ideally be in. What I would say, just, you know, is if you are making an application, put those costs in, and put as much information as you can, and we will do our best to support your break, whilst, as I say, trying to balance helping.
No, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because obviously the more money you give out, the less carers and families you can support, but it's a really difficult thing to juggle, isn't it? That you give something to everybody, or, you know, something to lots of carers.
But we definitely want to provide, you know, provide something that's meaningful to people, you know, and obviously with the cost of living, that is becoming more difficult. And with this grant programme, it's all cash grants. With our main grant programme, as I say, we mainly provide grants through contracts. But again, the costs have gone up in terms of goods that we're purchasing to provide grants.
Absolutely, everything I think has just gone up, hasn't it? But I know so many families that have really appreciated this, you know, Take a Break in particular, where it's been a real help, and they've told us lovely stories about how they were able to get a wee break to Centre Parks, or to, you know, just a really useful fund.
It's a great grant programme, and I you know, we get really, you know, people, we're very grateful to people for spending the time telling us about how they spent their grant and the benefits of their grant. And every year, I'm really humbled, to be honest, by what people say about, you know, and it's things you wouldn't necessarily have thought of, you know, about what a particular grant has meant to a particular carer and their family. So we know the benefits. What I would say as well is we would encourage families to look at the Shared Care Scotland site as well, and look at different types of support that they may be entitled to in terms of short breaks and or discretionary support that's available. You know, we know that there's not necessarily the level of provision that we would like to see, but there are things like hospitality that's available, you know, in some areas, and also, you know, at different times, time to live may be available to carers, and also obviously we would encourage people to have an adult carer support plan undertaken, and you know, part of that should be looking at whether or not short break support is something that's needed by the carer as part of their support as a carer. So we know it's not the be all and end all. It is a discretionary grant programme. They are reasonably small grants, but we do know that they can make quite a big difference. Bill?
Sorry, Stelina. Hansel Village used to have a caravan down in Craig Tara.
Yes.
Right, so people, would you consider something like that? Maybe purchasing, so that means you can send people obviously on a break, because you've the initial cost is obviously there, right? So it could be maybe cheaper in the long run.
Yeah, I don't know that that's something that we would necessarily that would fit with our model, if you like, in terms of how we deliver our grants. I know, for example, PAMIS have got a caravan as well, and sometimes they promote that. So I'd encourage people to look at that. So we do know, what I would say is people can use the Take a Break grant and along with support like that. So, and again, we also have people that use a family fund grant and a Take a Break grant together. And I know we've had examples of that before. So you might have a grant, or you might have the opportunity to take a break, say using PAMIS's caravan, and you might be able to use our Take a Break grant to cover other costs like meals or transport or things like that, to enhance your break or to take day trips while you're there. So it is really flexible. So they're maybe not huge grants, but the really good thing about them is they are really flexible. You can use them in so many different ways, and that flexibility increased during COVID because we knew people's choices were restricted, and we've kept that level of flexibility. So it still includes things like digital subscriptions. So for some families, things like Disney Plus were a bit of a lifesaver during lockdown, and they found actually that's something that they like as a family, or they really like to have a guilty pleasure, something they're watching Netflix, and that for them is their break. Well, that's fine, you know. We don't need to know what programmes you're watching or anything like that. But for other people, it's things like, you know, running shoes or a gym membership, or it might be that you want to take up knitting and buy loads of wool and knitting needles and an online tutorial class. That's fine, you know. So I'm getting a bit carried away here thinking about breaks, so apologies. I'm going to go back if I can and try and get back on the website. See, hopefully you can see that. So I wanted to talk about your opportunity. So I've talked about lots of things, but I haven't talked about your opportunity, which grants are available. So if we put in age of child and we put in 18 Scotland, you'll see your opportunity. So your opportunity, as I mentioned at the beginning, supports disabled children and disabled young people. I'm so used to saying children and young people. Young adults aged 18 to 24 who are living at home with their parent carer. We offer grants for a range of different things, so that might include digital equipment, clubs and activities, transport, and much more. And I'm just going to click on that to give you a bit more detail. So for years, families have been saying to us, oh, you've supported us from the time our child was born, but they're 17 now, this is their last grant. We're really going to miss that opportunity to apply for a grant from yourselves to support us. So we have, our fundraising team has worked really hard and brought in fundraised income, and we've been supported by the Edward Gosling Foundation and the Pearce Foundation, and also brought in income from our business services. So Family Fund also does a charity, but we also have business services, and they undertake grant administration on behalf of other organisations, and they gift their profits to the charity and help us to do more. So, for example, they administer the BBC Children in Need Emergency Essentials grant programme, which I'm hoping you know about, Lauren. If you don't, I'll send you some info. So we're really delighted now to have this grant programme for young people still living at home, and it works in a very similar way to the core programme. Again, for families on a low income, you can apply if you're the main parent or carer of the young person who's still living at home with you. And if you haven't received a Your Opportunity grant on behalf of this young adult in the last 12 months, you can apply for one now. Again, you have to have lived in the UK for the last 6 months and be a family on a low income from work or benefits such as universal credit, working tax credit, child tax credit, etc. Again, it's for young people or young adults who have a high level of support need in 3 or more of the following areas. So it's the same elements, the same sort of aspects of life that we looked at before, like communication, education, access to social activities and so on. You can apply for most of the same things that you can apply for through the main grant programme. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're not able to provide grants for family breaks or a holiday through Your Opportunity. I think that's linked to the fundraised income that we've brought in and the requirements of our funders. But we can consider a day trips grant. We can't consider requests for standard or electric wheelchairs, apparently, as these should be provided by statutory services, or any other equipment that should be provided under statutory provision, similar to the main programme. But there's lots of things we can help with, and there's examples there like digital equipment, clubs and activities, musical instruments, sports equipment, transport, day trips, the Driving Ambitions grant that we talked about earlier, bedroom furniture, televisions, white goods, etc. So lots of different things. We're really keen to get applications into this programme because it's not as well known. Well, some people just don't know it exists. So if you as a family are eligible, I'd encourage you to apply. Or if you know other people that might be, please do let them know that this now exists. Because as I say, people might think there's no point in looking at Family Fund because we're not eligible for the main grant programme, not knowing that you can apply to Your Opportunity. The application process is very similar to our main grant programme. You can apply through our online portal and on the website. So again, like we showed you before, or you can download an application form and print it off and fill it in post us. There's also a short young person's declaration form, which is basically just a very, sorry, I'm showing you all my things here. It's just a very short form, which is for data protection to make sure we can process your grant application. So it's quite straightforward. Any questions about that at all?
That sounds brilliant. That was one actually, Selena, that I didn't know about, and already I can think of a couple of young people and families that I'm working with that
we have a digital leaflet. Yep. I'll send you, Lauren, and we will also have we've also got printed leaflets as well. So if you can use them, you know, if that would be useful to have, let us know and we'll get some out. But after tonight's session, I can send you the digital.
That's brilliant.
For you to send to anybody you think might be interested.
And I'll send. We've got our mailing list, as you know, in our Facebook group. So anything you send to me, I can put out to people that weren't able to join us this evening.
That's
great.
Much appreciated.
What about if the individual has got universal credits, or, you know, GSA, the person, can he apply himself? Does it have to be his parent?
Not at the moment, but I think that might be something that we'll be able to do in the future, Bill. It's something we've talked about. I think at the moment we don't have the facility for that, but I think that's something we would look to. What's the word I'm looking for? Something we'd look to put in place for the future. It's really around things like getting data protection right and making sure we've got proper consents in place and things like that. And there is, as you say, there's that issue between it. We usually look at household income, and that's usually through the parent carer. But as you say, a young person might themselves be in receipt of benefit and be considered on a low income. So the answer is not yet, not at the moment, but that might change. It's a much newer grant programme, and we know that there might be changes we want to make in the future. So that's a good question, and I thank you for asking it, because I can tell people I've been asked. Because at the moment it is the parent carer that needs to apply, but we have talked about that, about the fact that this is, as we do want to support young people who are in that sort of transition to adulthood and might have things that they want to do that will support them. Again, I think we're very fortunate in Scotland. We do also have the Independent Living Fund Transitions Fund, but that's obviously not the case right across the UK. And this grant programme does cover young people, right across the UK. I suppose just to quickly show you what's available on our website if you're interested. So we have got a range of different information available on our website around financial support, support to use technology, mental health and wellbeing support, caring and education resources, and also if you want to see if we're doing any events in your area, face-to-face information and support events. So there won't be loads on there just now because we're coming to the end of the financial year. We've got them in planning. So I'm not even sure if there'll be any on just yet. So this month. So there's me. there's me. One of the pictures I've given permission to be used. There was one or two I wasn't too keen on. Not that I'm vain, but a lady of a certain age, you don't want it in the public domain. But we do host sort of information support events. We don't do huge numbers. What we try and do is where we see that there's an area that we think we should be reaching more families, that's where we would tend to prioritise having a face-to-face information and support event. And the idea around about them is it's a sort of one-stop shop marketplace type thing where local community centre or leisure centre, that kind of facility where people can just pop in during the day and find out about things like specific information support around about particular types of additional support needs. Might be that we've got Visibility Scotland there, for example, or Epilepsy Scotland. We usually have contact there that provide information, advice and support to families of disabled children and young people. We might also have the local citizens advice or advice service there. So organisations, we've quite often had sorry, I forgot that's Energy. I mentioned the name earlier on.
Home Energy Scotland.
Home Energy Scotland, that's it. We've quite often had Home Energy Scotland events even before the current sort of cost of living crisis, because we know that energy is a real issue of concern for our families' energy use. So we try and have them. Our next ones are going to be, I don't know where you're all from, but our next ones are going to be in Fort William on the 26th of April.
Nice.
And Inverness on the 27th of April, because we would like to reach more families than we are currently reaching across the Highlands.
Up there.
So I've just done a sort of event up in Kirkwall on Orkney, and last year we had ones in Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire. But you can keep an eye, and if we usually invite yourselves along if you're able, but we know it's not possible for every organisation, Lauren, but at least it means you know about them, and then you can share with any of your families in the area. So as I say, there's lots of support information on there. The other thing is, if you're if you're interested at all in our research, you can go and have a wee look at and if you're interested in participating in any of our research, there's never any obligation, but we're always keen to have people involved giving their views. We also arrange, sometimes we have meetings for things like ministers, Scottish Government ministers and so on, who want to hear from families who've supported. And again, there's never any obligation, but if that's something you would like to be involved in the future, please do get in touch. And what I would say as well is I'm happy for people to have my contact details, Lauren. I do, quite often people come to me with quite specific inquiries about their grant application. What I would say is, usually the answer's on the website, but if not, I'm usually then going to our first contact team and asking them to look into it, because they have great expertise responding to inquiries and can look into the specifics of any grant applications or whether people might be eligible for certain things. So for the most part, the most effective thing to do is contact us through our website. But you know, if people are for some reason more comfortable getting in touch with myself, you're very welcome to do that.
That's great.
And as I say, yeah, and our telephone number is there, as well as our address, etc. So that's, I say, that was a little bit of a magical mystery to our new website. So you probably saw me at times going, oh, because it is a little bit different, but hopefully we've wanted to make it more accessible and easy to navigate for people, and we're always happy to get feedback as well about our online resources, our website as well, to try and improve it. So that's a kind of ongoing process. Just to say, you can see things like track my application. So again, once you put an application in, you can track that, and using stories. So you'll see there with some things, if we're involved in campaigns or supporting campaigns, we'll put it on there. And there's lots of family stories as well. And just to say as well, this is our 50th year, so we're marking our 50th year, so you'll probably see you know, some information about that out in the, you know, out in the public domain. There'll be a book coming out that's got stories from families that have supported across 50 years and things. So and a bit about our history, if you're a reader and you want some bedtime, you might be interested. So I hope that's been helpful. As I say, I'm really happy to come along again another time. If I don't know the answer, which I sometimes don't, because we help with so many different things, and so many families' circumstances are so diverse, I can't always say for sure absolutely right away. But if I don't know the answer, I'm always happy to go away and find out for folk.
No, that's brilliant. And what I'll do is I'll share around any info that Selena gives me. I will pass on to our mailing list and on our Facebook page, and obviously we'll share this session with anyone that couldn't be with us this evening. And I'll share your details, Selena. Thank you for offering that. I'll share your details, and if anyone wants to get in touch, then please do. But thank you so much for sharing that with us. I certainly have learnt things, so I'm sure our families have got lots of useful information as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Lauren. And just as a last thing before we turn off the recording, just to say, we do have ongoing sort of digital skills workshops, which are really good. So there's a rolling programme, so you can go on the website and have a look at them, and you can book a place. We can also look at sort of bespoke session, Lauren. So if there's something that people in this group would be really interested in and want to do as a group, that might be something that we could look at in the future as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us this evening, Selena. That was really, really helpful. Thank you very much.